When I talk about male space, like I got basically three ways of sort of coming about this. One is sort of like what I call men in the garage. Okay. Men in the garage is having a man cave, right? When I lived in Florida, there used to be like, you would go to these guys, they would have these garages, and sometimes we would call them like a Florida room, right? They were usually converted garages, and they would have like screen, a screen to keep the fucking mosquitoes out, right? And there might be a pool table in there, and they might have like a full on bar. I remember you could walk, like there's certain parts in like St. Cloud and Harmony, Florida, and some of these other places I used to live, like Kissimmee, Florida, where you could walk around the neighborhoods, and like you could literally if you knew where to go, it was almost like going to like local bars, right? And this was back when I was drinking too. So like you could walk down the street, and I knew of this one guy. He had a pool table, he had like video games, and he had like a big screen TV, and like the football games were going on, and he had like this it was kind of a small, kind of a mini wet bar, and like you could literally go there, just hang out, and you didn't have to pay anything to do. Just be like, hey man, want a beer? Yeah, you just hang out, and it was just like guys being guys kind of thing. And then you could go to another one and to another one, and it got to the point where it's like these sort of it was what I call men in the garage. And I wrote an essay about this after like sort of experiencing this when I lived in Florida. And a lot of the guys, it's funny to me that they need this space. They need this kind of like clubhouse. They need this sort of tree house where it's not even like no men are allowed kind of thing, or no women are allowed kind of thing, but it's just sort of like an unspoken thing. Like a man cave is where the guys go in and they do their man things, which is like shoot pool and drink and play video games. Apparently, I don't know what else it is that they do. Like I would play Warhammer 40,000 if that was me. Um, but but I thought it was kind of tragic at that time. And that's what when I was writing the essay about men in the garage, it was about these guys sort of carving out this one little area of their house that was their place, because everywhere else in their house was more or less dominated by their wives. So the living room was all done by Bed Bath and Beyond, right? Or the bathroom, or the curtains and drapes, everything, like the carpet, well, all the stuff. Everything in the house was a decision that was made by his wife, and it kind of tracks with a lot of the stats of today. Like major purchases are made by women, clothing purchases, even male clothing purchases are purchased by women right now. Hygiene kind of stuff like toothpaste, bars of soap, that kind of stuff. Computers, mostly women buy computers. Mostly women are the ones making the decisions on what vacations they're going to go to, that the family's going to go to. Women are deciding where they're going to live and what the school systems are that they're going to let their kids go into. Women will not relinquish that sort of need for long-term security because they can't trust the guy. And when the guy abdicates authority, he basically abdicates the entirety of the whole house, right? Now, I'm a little bit different. I don't have a man cave. I have a studio here that I always keep to myself. I have a music studio that I have. I have the garage, which is my workshop. I build guitars down there. I cobble things together. I like to do projects and stuff like that. I have a side yard over here where I have my toys, where I used to have my snowmobiles, but now I have my jet skis and everything. And the house is more or less a reflection of myself and my wife's influence. But like there's certain areas of the house that are, pretty much I'm in control of the studio, obviously. And I try to make it look as professional as possible. But I don't have like a man cave per se, with the sort of the intent of it being like a man cave, like a male exclusive space. And I thought what was interesting is like that once the trend, or once the cultural phenomenon that is man caves sort of became a little bit more mainstream, that's when you start seeing these commercials like Geico commercials or T-Mobile commercials or whatever else. And it's no longer about man caves anymore. It's a she cave or a she shell or a she shed. That's what man caves and she sheds. I think that's what it was. And so now it's not enough. Like men can't have that. But women, you get this little mini house that's out in the backyard, and it's like this little teeny tiny, like, one of those little houses that you get over at like Home Depot, right? It's supposed to be a shed, but they turned it into some sort of like little cottage getaway that only women are allowed to, and it's a she shed. So it wasn't enough for there to be just a man cave. There had to be a she shed on top of that. And then that's when you see, well, haha, men have their things, but women do too, and buy T-Mobile, right? And buy Geico insurance or whatever it was. I also wrote about that in that same essay at that time, and it sort of led me to the idea that men and male spaces are not something that are permitted, or not for very long anyways. And this came out, I remember, I think it was in 2018 or 2019, I was on Pat Campbell's show. We started talking about, there was this new initiative, and it was on Harvard University, that they were banning all male exclusive, like extracurricular clubs. Anything that was just a male exclusive club could no longer be male exclusive. But it wasn't just male exclusive, it was like sex exclusive. So female clubs, all female clubs had to be open to male membership, and all male clubs had to be open to female membership. Well, women lost their shit. Men were like, well, we're so used to women coming in here and fucking things around. But when women lost their shit because they wanted to have that sort of exclusive space to themselves, they needed it away from men so that they could sort of like heal and grow and whatever the fuck it is that they were doing in these clubs, right? And this was at Harvard. And when this new conversation came up about male spaces just recently, I went back to see if that was still a thing, because that was a pretty glaringly obvious thing. And guess what? Harvard University rescinded that. But they didn't rescind it because of the male exclusive clubs. They rescinded it because of women's outcry for wanting their own sex exclusive spaces. So it's okay for women to have gender exclusive spaces, but it's not okay for men to have those things. We don't get a man cave without a she shed. But Harvard University will rescind their sexual exclusion policies on their extracurricular clubs because women cried a river about it. So I brought this up, and I was talking about this, and when I was talking about male space, it sort of led into this other, if you've read my second book, in fact, there is a dedicated chapter. And yes, those Redfield guys, we've talked about this before, whether you think so or not, but we have talked about this before. It is a conversation we have had for a very long time. And it's actually a essay I wrote called Male Space. Wow. And it turned into a chapter in the second book called Male Space. So I wrote about that. And I also wrote about gamer girls, because it wasn't so much about the girls themselves, but it was about the dynamic of allowing women into what would traditionally be male spaces. So I want to sort of point this out here before I put this. I'm giving you sort of the preamble here before I get into the what I was going to say here. Is this it? Where did it go? Okay, this is the Freak Destiny. And I'm just gonna scroll up. I'm just gonna scrub through this video real quick, because there's this one part here where he talks about male space, and it's sort of is a good jumping off point for all.
Autistic fixation on destiny has completely consumed him.
Do they ever speak like normal human beings? All right, I gotta scrub up through this, and this is where he starts talking about sort of the conversation we were having about male space, right? And of course, Destiny doesn't believe there's anything called male space, or that male space is in some way guys getting together like the He-Man Woman Haters Club, right? So let's
the problem is that, I mean, like, the left doesn't talk about men because they hate men and white people, I guess, or whatever. But the problem is all of the communities that are created for men are doing exactly what she's doing. Like, there are not men that go into Red Pill spaces or Andrew Tate spaces or Fresh and Fit spaces and learn how to create community or learn how to engage in healthy friendships or healthy behavior.
Okay, this is patently incorrect. In fact, if you go and you look at, if you go and you join Reignite or you join MOA, I can't speak for the War Room because I don't know any different, but I have heard that was one of the, what do you think is the attraction then? Why would guys want to be part of these groups if not for a need for a tribal community? And again, the reason why this is coming up is because freaks like this seem to think that men getting together is in some way inherently dangerous.
It's always just like the same hollow bullshit lip service. It's like, oh, just be a lumberjack and go cut wood like a real man. Or
literally no one is saying this, but this is the narrative that his Democratic his friends at Progressive Victory would like you to believe. This is what these guys, it's ridiculous masculinity, right? It's the ridiculous guy. It's Homer Simpson, or what was it from King of the Hill? The guy when King of the Hill guy, I forget the father's name in King of the Hill. When he takes TRT and everybody thinks he's like cheating on his wife or something, and he turns it like that. That's the ridiculousness of this, right?
You know, be there for your bros while you side hustle grind for your 5 businesses. And it's like, the fuck, what does any of this have to do with fucking anything? Nobody's learning how to be a better person here, or a better friend, or to build a community.
Do you think that perhaps as a result of learning to do those things and having those projects, that perhaps they are, but you just don't know about it because you haven't been a part of those things? You're just simply ignorant of those communities and ignorant of the purpose behind those. See, here's the thing, and this is one to harp on this in particular, is because this is a key element to my own group, to MOA, to any of the sort of like the quote unquote red pill groups, such as who else is he going to name, right? Has he been in the war room? Does he know anything about this? Has he been part of Justin Waller's group? Has he been part of any group of guys? No, he hasn't. So he has no fucking frame of reference here. This is all straw man bullshitting once again. But it's important to understand like sort of the narrative that's inherent in the bullshit, okay? Because it's very pro-feminine. It's very pro-female, which of course I would expect, you know, the people who are fucking his paymasters would want him to say. But the thing is that, and I point this out in the very beginning of my Reignite program, is that men communicate better when they have a project to work on, when they have a car to fix, when they have a project that they're like, whether maybe it's building a business, I don't know, maybe they're playing golf, maybe they're fucking going to the shooting range, maybe they're lifting, maybe they're deep sea fishing, maybe they're driving fast cars, maybe they're playing chess, right? Maybe they're doing, it doesn't have to be something really extravagant. It could just be some sort of shared mutual interest. As I was saying, and I point this out in the Reignite program as well, is like some of the best conversations I've ever had with my father and with my brother have been when we've been working on cars. My brother, I have a younger brother, he's 2 years younger than me, and he owns his own classic muscle car restoration company, right, in Nevada here. I don't know if you want me to give him a drop, but it's Callaway Motorsports. So my brother does this. He takes like muscle cars and he reconditions them, restores them, and then he takes them to like the Barrett Jackson auctions that you see on like ESPN now and then, which are in like Las Vegas and like Scottsdale, Arizona, right? So sometimes you'll see it, but he'll work on like maybe 2 or 3 cars. And that's how he makes a good chunk of his money. He also does like custom work for other people too. So sometimes he works on exotics and stuff. My brother's always been like sort of a gearhead. He always liked to work on the cars and build the cars. And I like to race them and break them because I like speed. But the best conversations I've ever had with my brother is when we're like sitting over like a big black Chevy and we're like working on a Holley four-barrel carburetor, and we're just sitting there and just shooting the shit and just bullshitting. We're like, we're still working. We have a function. We have a project we're working on. But in the process of working on that particular project or that thing, that problem that we're solving, in this case, we're trying to fix a problem. Maybe we're trying to build something, right? Or you have some sort of unity that is based on a shared vision or shared interest or a shared problem to solve or a shared project that you're building together. That's when men discuss things. Like I was saying before, when women communicate, it's the communication thing. When women communicate, they communicate for the sake of communication. Let's go to Starbucks and let's catch up, right? When women communicate, they sit across from each other. And they're like, okay, and then what happened? And women love to communicate for the sake of just communication. Men communicate because we're communicating information. Women are more interested in people, and men are more interested in things. That affects how we communicate. So if I'm working on a thing and we're talking about a thing, I'm exchanging information. Men's communication is based on content. It is, what's the information? Women's communication is based on context. How did the conversation make her feel? It's not that the information for women is unimportant. It is important, but it is not as important as the feeling that they get when they're conversing. For men, it's not. It comes information first. What's the project? What are we working on? Blah blah blah. And then how did it make us feel? So it's the priority is different, just simply because that's just how our brains are wired, man. And so the reason why a guy like Destiny doesn't know this shit is because he's never had a group of guys, he's never had a tribe, he's never been involved in those things, he's never had a project. Maybe he's, played League of Legends and had some good conversations during that, but it's usually because we have a shared interest and we're putting something together or solving a problem, or we have some sort of purpose that we're cooperatively focusing on. I was asked a little earlier about why men can't create the brotherhood uber alles. You know why? Because we don't have a common purpose to be united under. So what do? We compete with one another. We compete with each other. We don't have a cathedral. We don't have we don't have Notre Dame to build anymore. We don't have it. I mentioned this in the last podcast. We don't have the same frontiers to explore anymore. Like when I was talking about pirate latitudes and I was talking about black sails, right? And being a pirate, I'm going to be a pirate. Well, the reason why that was so seductive and so great back then is because there was a new fucking world to explore. There's no new world to explore. So if you want to know why, if you want to say, hey, well, what's happening there? What the goal state that Destiny's talking about is a goal state for women. It's not a goal state for men. Yes, maybe these guys did go. Who knows? I don't know. I've never been in the war room, so I can't speak to it, and neither can he, because I know damn well he wasn't part of this. So I'm just going to speculate here and say the reason why those communities are attractive in the first place is because they seem like a collective on a united purpose. And as a result of being focused on that particular thing or that particular purpose or solving that problem, that's where the communication happens. But you don't know that because the guy was acculturated and socialized as a woman, as a female. Remember I think it was Camille Paglia. When Camille Paglia said, if we raise our boys as if they're defective girls, guess what? When those defective girls who were boys become men, they are defective women, or the defective men who look a lot like women. They act like women. We raise our boys, our men, to be defective women. And guess what? Destiny is a perfect example of the defective woman that these defective girls become, because he's never been acculturated. He's never been socialized in any masculine way, certainly no conventionally masculine way. So how is he ever supposed to know that when guys have a common purpose to be united under, that's when we do communicate. That's when we do form bonds. That's when we do form brotherhood. You want brotherhood uber alles? Give me a fucking Holly 4-barrel carburetor to work on with my brother and my other friends. And we're going to create the brotherhood uber alles just over a fucking car, because you have to have that common. The best friendships that are developed amongst men are ones where we have common interest. In fact, I would argue that the only way to have a friendship is to have a common interest, at least as a starting point. So, of course, he's ignorant. He's simply ignorant of male culture. So how is he supposed to ever figure this shit out for himself?
And the communities that they are a part of all just revolve around blaming women and feminism and liberals for all of their fucking problems.
No, they don't. That's you straw manning those communities. And the reason you strawman those communities is because you're worried that guys might actually form a brotherhood uber alles. You're worried that guys might actually organize. They actually might find solidarity and unity. So you've got to berate them because it goes against your feminine training. You're a defective woman.
Like, what do you even do? Yeah, you're fucked. As soon as you start to fall into this shit, you're super fucked.
Right. So if you can demonize it and tell everybody they're super fucked, what does it do? It reinforces your socialization as a woman. That's all Destiny is. He's just a chick. He's a chick with male parts. He doesn't know how to think in any other way.